Welcome to the Greater Essex County District School Board's presentation on the transition process and the individual education plan. The information contained in this presentation is compiled from documents provided by the Ministry of Education and are referred to later in this presentation. Please refer to the Ontario Ministry of Education website for the most up-to-date documents. This is the third in a series of presentations designed to support teachers in understanding the IEP process and writing effective IEPs. Transition plans are one mandated component of an effective individual education plan. The document you see on the screen now is still the most current document released by the Ministry of Education. The Individual Education Plan, IEP, a resource guide, was published in 2004. In the last 12 years, there have been numerous updates including several policy and program memorandums, the release of Growing Success and Learning for All that have provided further directives regarding the development of IEPs. The beginning part of this presentation will take you through the brief history of transition planning with regards to the IEP. The IEP Resource Guide 2004 quotes Regulation 181/98 that states a transition plan must be developed for exceptional students who are age 14 or over and who are not solely identified as gifted. This must include a plan from school to the world of work, further education, or community living. Please note the upcoming slides will detail how this mandate has changed. Policy and Procedure Memorandum 140 was released in 2007 entitled Incorporating Methods of Applied Behavior Analysis, ABA, into Programs for Students with Autism Spectrum Disorder, ASD. This PPM was specific for students with an exceptionality of autism spectrum disorder. This mandated that staff must incorporate a transition plan for students with autism in the IEP, focusing on transitions between various activities and settings. Both micro and macro transitions, which will be detailed in coming slides, must be planned as part of a transition process. It is also important to note that PPM 140 also mandates that relevant ABA strategies must be used to support the various transitions where appropriate. Policy and Procedure Memorandum 156 was released in 2013 entitled Supporting Transitions for Students with Special Education Needs. This PPM made changes to the criteria of who will require a transition plan as part of their IEP. No longer are transition plans only for students who are 14 years of age and older, not solely identified as gifted, and or students with autism. Since 2013, all students who have an individual education plan must have a transition plan as part of the individual education plan regardless of whether or not a formal IPRC has been held. These transition plans must be developed in consultation with parents, students if appropriate, community agencies, and post-secondary institutions as necessary. Policy and Program Memorandum 156 further outlined the requirements within a transition plan. Each transition plan must identify specific transition goals, the actions required to achieve the goals, roles and responsibilities, and timelines for the implementation or completion of each of the identified actions. You will note the IEP transition page has the headings Overall Goals, Action, Persons Responsible for Actions, and Timelines. A transition plan is a guide which outlines the daily, short-term, and long-term changes that may occur for a student throughout the school year and possibly beyond. The plan must be reviewed and updated as part of the IEP review process. The plan may include both micro and macro transitions. Micro transitions are transitions that occur on a regular basis between activities and settings within the routine of a school day. Macro transitions are more complex and include significant changes to many aspects of a student's routine. Take 30 seconds to think about micro transitions that may occur during a student's day. Think about your classroom, all of the transitions, however minute, that your students partake in throughout the course of a day. The first and most frequent microtransition that occurs is activity to activity. Across the school spectrum, from JK to grade 12, and all the various settings, think about all the activities that occur within each of these. Do some students do better with one activity as opposed to another? Do some students not like to leave an activity, wanting to stick to their preferred activity of choice? The next most frequent transition that occurs is class to class. During the course of a day, how many different classes does one of your students attend? Supply teachers and staff are micro-transitions that some students are able to handle better than others. I am sure that you can picture some students in your class that you know will struggle when you or another member of your support team are away. Within a class change, does a teacher change also occur? Do you teach all subjects to your students? Are the students always in your classroom? Do some students struggle more than others with certain expectations when the teacher changes? Schedule changes are also transitions that some students struggle with. For an infinite number of reasons, the school timetable or class timetable must change. Take a minute to talk to a partner. Can you name examples of each micro-transition? Within the activity-to-activity example, there are multiple activity changes throughout a student's day. Independent work to group work, math to language, playtime to circle, from a break or reinforcer back to work. Class changes occur once every 72 to 100 minutes depending on the setting. Examples include SIR to homeroom, English to math, gym to history, lunch to shop class, gains to an integrated period. Micro-transitions can include a change in the adults that a student interacts with throughout their day. Supply teachers and educational support staff, secretary, principal, and/or custodian may be away for any number of reasons, including sick days, maternity or paternity leaves, professional development days, SBL days, or transition meetings. Perhaps a student helps a custodian recycle or is integrated into an art class. Change of teacher often occurs to utilize a teacher's strength and/or teachable. In an elementary setting, those subjects tend to include the areas of French, art, music, and physical education, or partial integration into a SIR. In a secondary setting, teachers change by subjects taught. Each teacher a student has may hold a different set of expectations, may carry out routines in a different fashion, use different language and words. They may have a different teaching style that the student has to adapt to. Schedule changes occur for a variety of reasons. A student of the month assembly is occurring, gym is canceled to accommodate picture day, EQAO has all the bells turned off, and O Canada sung in the middle of the day. Perhaps the class is scheduled to go on a field trip, exams, a holiday changes the day 1, 2, 3 cycle so that music no longer occurs on a Tuesday. Please take a minute to talk to a partner. Can you name some actions for each micro-transition? Some of these actions you probably use so frequently and have embedded them in your current practice that you forget to do them. Many of the same strategies can be used to assist students with all micro-transitions. Many classroom teachers use working for cards, first-then language, visual auditory timers, visual schedules. In addition, most teachers prepare the students for upcoming transitions. For example, in 5 minutes we are going to clean up. It's almost lunchtime. Remember, I know you really like to go outside for recess, but it's raining outside today. When a student has to transition from class to class, some of the same strategies can be used. Use of timers, visual schedules, or a review of routines in the new setting. For example, it is almost gym time. You will need to clean up and make sure you have your running shoes on. If known ahead of time that a staff member will be away for the day, a class or individual student can be prepared. In some cases, long-standing alternative plans are in place if a supply staff comes in. ESS staff are often rearranged, or some students may move classes. If a change from teacher to teacher occurs, you might provide organizational assistance as well as a communication book to use with parents. Schedule changes may require some special planning. Perhaps a fire drill is going to be held and you know a student needs a set of headphones to be brought out to the yard early. A visual schedule could show students that a change is about to occur. Starting on Monday, reminding the class that Friday is picture day and therefore there will be no gym. Some teachers use the Remind app, or EDSB, to inform parents of transitions. Macro transitions are more complex and include significant changes to many aspects of a student's routine. Take 30 seconds to talk to a partner. How many macro transitions can you name? A first and significant macro transition for a student is entry into school. Think about the different places a student may be prior to entering school for the first time. This becomes a very important first transition, and the amount of planning may vary depending upon the needs of the student. Another macro transition is grade to grade, including division to division. Each school year, a student will transition to a new grade where the demands increase and the routines change. School to school is another type of macro transition. This may occur because families move, or schools amalgamate, or perhaps a program or service is offered in a different location. Another milestone macro transition is a transition from elementary school to the secondary school setting. This transition is significant for all students, but particularly so for students that may have an identified learning need. Planning and preparation cannot be underestimated at this important point in a student's school career. Changes in the IPRC placement is another example of a macro transition. In our schools, there are many reasons that students may experience a change of staff. These changes fall under macro transitions. They can be very significant changes for students and require planning and careful consideration. Transitions from secondary to the world of work, secondary to post-secondary settings, and secondary to the community are 3 additional types of macro transitions. Please take a minute to talk to a partner. Can you name examples of each macro transition? Think about the students from age 3 to 21. When thinking of the macro transition, entry to school, there are a range of environments a student may enter school for the first time. The most common are from home or the daycare setting. But there are other entry points for our vastly diverse student population. For example, students new to the country and students with autism receiving IBI. Grade-to-grade transitions are easier to envision. Moving from SK to grade 1 or other combinations of grade moves are an example of this type of transition. School-to-school transitions can be a student moving into a new neighborhood, but it can also be due to a school community combining into another school, or a student coming out of a mental health agency school back to the community school. Students leaving elementary school after their grade 8 year and moving into the secondary school setting. Changes in the IPRC placement may be from a placement from the regular class to SIR or vice versa, or to a gains or steps placement. These transitions are done through the IPRC process with consultation from the school team and parents. Staff changes can occur for a variety of reasons, from maternity leaves, reorganization changes of the support staff, EAs, DSWs, and CYWs. Additionally, changes of the school principal, vice principal, secretary, and custodians can all have a significant impact on a student due to the types of relationships our students have with the entire school community. The transition from the secondary school setting can occur for students who have earned a diploma or a certificate. It may be planning around post-secondary educational opportunities, or planning directly into the world of work or into community services that is required. Please take a minute to talk to a partner. Can you name actions for each macro transition? Remember again that we are transitioning students from age 3 to 21. Some possible actions for the entry to school transitions include school and classroom visits or staff completing observations in daycares, OEYs, parent and family literacy centers, and our various community agencies. Detailed transition meetings that outline the needs and services and the creation of material resources like All About Me books help ease the demands and provide strategies for student success. For grade-to-grade transitions, some possible actions are teacher and support staff sharing of information that outlines the student's learning profile. The sharing of any behavioral strategies and proactive measures to support our students' varying needs is also important. Where a student is transitioning from school to school, possible actions might be a transition meeting between the schools, school visits for the student, and school visits for the staff involved. The intensity of the actions will be in keeping with the needs of the student. Details such as transportation, planning schedules, and sharing IEPs also occur. Actions for the elementary to secondary school transitions could include grade 9 open houses and the sharing of the IEP and learning profiles with the student success team. Opportunities for reaching ahead credits can also be explored. Throughout the school year, changes may occur due to placement changes as determined by the IPRC. Possible actions for these types of transitions are classroom visits, transition meetings, transferring of the IEP, and any relevant plans like behavior and safety plans to the new teaching team. Staffing changes and how it can affect our students will vary depending on the student and relationship with a staff member. Remembering simple actions such as preparing the student for change, meeting new staff, and activities that allow rapport to be established will be helpful. Actions to support our secondary students as they leave for post-secondary, world of work, or into the community may include course selection, guidance meetings, completing the IEPP, engaging brokerage, and helping the students to apply for Ontario Disability Support Pension, or ODSP. Take a look at the placemat that outlines various macro transitions we just discussed. Note along the side where additional common actions are listed. Considerations such as transferring student equipment, making bathroom modifications, and arranging transportation are all details that must be considered by the transition team in preparation for a student's transitions. These details must be reported as part of the transition page in the IEP. The next 6 slides are detailed samples of various transitions with specific action examples. Many of these strategies you may already be doing, and some are actions that you may not have considered. The first sample slide, Entry to School, has a long-term goal of transitioning independently between home and school. Possible actions to achieve this goal are visual schedules, use of social stories, having designates to meet the bus, and using transitional objects to decrease anxiety. The next sample slide speaks specifically to the micro-transition that occur within the classroom setting. Possible actions include providing choices of activities, using the 5-point scales, teaching self-advocacy skills, as well as using visual cues and warnings for transitions. Take a look at class to class. The long-term goal is for the student to independently transition from class to class throughout the school day. Note the following specific actions. Student will use a visual checklist to gather materials and prepare for class. The person responsible for this action is listed, and the timeline of daily is noted. Consider another action example for class-to-class transition. Student will learn to use a daily schedule to make transitions throughout the day. Again, both the person responsible and timeline are noted. As you consider these samples, think about all the strategies you use with your students to support their transitions throughout the day. Have you recorded them on the transition page in their IEP? Consider the next slide, non-instructional times. Where do your students struggle the most? Non-instructional times can be very challenging for students with executive functioning and self-regulation issues and/or social issues. This non-instructional time takes planning and consideration. Looking at the long-term goal under this slide, student will move independently from class to recess and recess to class and from lunch area to class. Specific actions to meet these goals include student will use a visual schedule to assist with their break routine. Student will present a break card to request a break, and use of a first then card. This slide shows examples of the macro transition grade to grade. Key actions to support this transition may include reviewing the student profile with a new teacher, visiting the classroom setting, completing an option sheet for the next school year, and planning a transition meeting with parents and board staff to identify programming and supports needed. Note the timelines vary depending on when actions are needed or when outcomes are due. Some grade-to-grade transitions are more important than others. For example, primary to junior and junior to intermediate are very important grade transitions and may require extra planning to support a student depending on their individual needs. A significant macro transition is a transition from elementary to secondary school. Transitioning to a secondary high school setting usually means leaving the elementary building and going to a high school location. Additional new experiences such as taking new courses and having several teachers across the school day are just some of the new challenges for a grade 9 student. The Greater Essex County District School Board has many transitional activities designed to support all students with this milestone. Activities such as the high school open house, grade 9 days, shadow days, sharing of information with guidance and student success teams, IPRCs, and transition meetings are all examples that should be listed on your transition page. Take a look at the responsibility column and note the varied team players. We hope that you find this presentation helpful when writing the transition page of an IEP. Please view the next presentation in this series on transition planning to adulthood. Thank you.